Howdy, howdy.
Happy Wednesday. How are ya?
Doing great. There must be some reason why they're putting us on right after lunch.
Maybe because we're here to get them all awakened.
Let's wake up, people.
That's it. Stretch a little bit, do a little yoga. We're going to do stretching and yoga with Joe and Kat, C21 Beggins.
Work off that lunch. There you go.
There you go. A little stretch, ready to roll. Well, it's just about 1 o'clock. I see more people coming on. Hi, everybody. Good to have you. We're going to have fun today. Can you hear me okay? Am I screaming?
You're okay. You're okay. How am I coming across? All right.
Yeah, yours is clear.
Okay.
Sometimes mine isn't, because of distance and so forth. So I just wanted to check it out. Anyhow, we've got some fun stuff planned today.
I know. And some really good.
Paris. Who knows what today's going to bring?
I'm sorry. Well, I'm drinking Coke today.
A little water. Let me. Yeah.
Keep us going here.
A little water. Well, for those of you that don't know us, most of you do. This is Joe Diener, South Tampa. Hi, Joe. Hello. And I'm Kat, Sarasota, and Longboat Key offices. Welcome, everybody. We're just going to jump in and have some fun today. What we're going to talk about is how to service a listing. Now you've got the listing. What do you do with it? It's not just putting a stick in the yard, is it?
Kat, this was something that Jeff and I talked about right before we did this class, because I said, we do such a great job in teaching them how to get the listing, but then we don't really talk about what do I do once I have it. So this is a new class that I hope will help people keep it going and keeping their client happy.
Agreed. That's exactly what we're going to be covering. And it's not going to be old stuff. There's going to be a lot of good stuff in here.
Mm-hmm.
We start out by creating and managing the seller's expectations and marketing. Marketing not only the listing, but ourselves to get that listing from the listing to close.
That first point, Kat, the setting expectations is probably the most important thing you can do in the beginning. Because we do this every day of every week of every year, right? But our seller maybe has only done 1 or 2 listings, and selling their home. And it really is a good idea in the very beginning to sit down and talk about how you're going to market, how you're going to list, how you're going to communicate with them. Because in the absence of you setting the expectation, who sets it, Kat?
Yeah, exactly. The seller has expectations, and we have to help that seller sometimes put on a different lens, if you will. That's not rose color, that's not gray, but that's what realistic. That's what we are doing.
And by the way, the market's going to be different from maybe the time they sold their house before to today. So we got to set with them the expectations of what's going to happen.
That's so true, because some sellers, and we're going to find some coming out to sell their properties, they've had it 30, 40 years. Now, when they bought their homes 30 or 40 years ago, financing was very different. Sellers closing cost assistance, buyer closing cost assistance, that sort of thing. Sometimes sellers used to get assistance from a particular neighbor or something like that if they were holding the papers through individuals. There were some very unique financing situations back in the day. Contract for deed. Sometimes the deed would be held until it was finally paid to the very last payment. Sometimes they had lump sum payments, balloon payments. So all of these things we talk about with our sellers to let them know, here's what we're doing in financing today. What are you the most comfortable with? This is what we have. So that way they're not expecting to have to do what they used to do maybe 20, 30 years ago. They're getting brought up to speed, if you will.
It doesn't even have to be 20 or 30 years, Kat, 5 years.
That's true.
If they bought this, during the recession of 2010, whatever, it was entirely different. They looked at the house was on the market for maybe a month, and they could look at it, and 2 weeks later they could go back and it'd still be there.
That's true.
We've got to set them up for the expectation, like, we're going to put this thing on the market and you need to get out of the house because we're going to have a flock of people through here. And that's really important to set that down, because if you don't set that right now, at the end of the first 2 days, they're going to be, I can't live in my house. Everybody, so you got to set that now and what they're going to expect.
Well, and even more importantly, not only are we going to help them relocate to their new home, because we're not just getting them out, we got to make sure that they're going to be in the position to where they are able to finance or buy a new home. We want to early on make sure that we're not going to turn our sellers into homeless folks. So we have two challenges here, and bringing them up to speed of what the market prices are now, as opposed to when they bought their home maybe 5-10 years ago, where the prices were a great deal less, to inform them and educate them through data, through our process, our listing process that we talked about yesterday, so that they're not in for a shock when the prices are $550 and above. And 5 years ago, they were looking at $330 and above. So it's important.
And what they can expect for down payments and what the market's getting. I just had a listing appointment on Sunday. And, they were like, well, we only put $1,000 down on this house when we bought it. And I'm like, well, that's not going to happen now. And we literally I had to say, we need to make sure you're qualified to go the next step before we put your house on the market. I don't want you to be homeless and have sold your house and you're not qualified yet for your new house. So sometimes setting that expectation and having them take a deep breath and making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed before, you don't want to go through the hassle of listing the house to find out a week or 2 days into it that they can't afford to go to the next place and you got to take it off the market. You don't want to do that. So
no, and just like we talked about yesterday, we want to make sure they get a written payoff. And the reason why that's key, when we did the example with you being the seller, as a verbal payoff can be completely wrong. What if there's a second mortgage or third mortgage out there? The lender's not aware of that. That situation can turn into a nightmare. So we want a written payoff, so they know exactly what they owe, or where they're at with the financing portion of the house, or if it's even paid off. We want to make sure. And on that note, we also want to make sure that if it is paid off, if we find that there's no satisfaction of mortgage in the public record, or a satisfaction, what do they call it? Final judgment, satisfaction. There's different ways that they phrase it.
Right.
There are from time to time private sellers that buy and sell with one another, but they don't record the final satisfaction of the mortgage. And if your seller doesn't have a copy of it, and if title doesn't have it in the records, guess what? We got to chase down the original seller and pray to God he's still alive or she's still alive. And they're going to have to do a modification in the public record.
We had a lot of issues with that in 9 and 10 because the banks were all sold back and forth to each other. Yes. People hadn't recorded into, that they paid off into the bank and they went to sell their house and there was no final satisfaction. And we couldn't find who had the paperwork because this bank bought this bank and no one knew where the paperwork was, so.
Well, I dealt with one like that last year, and I helped the seller get together with the old seller. They both went to the same church, and I got a satisfaction mortgage, got it recorded. Then I hand delivered a certified copy over to the title company to make sure they had it, because title didn't catch it until maybe 5 days prior to closing. So I did a whole lot of running around, a lot of phone calls, and a lot of driving, but we got it done. Experience, and that's what you see working for this brokerage. We have so much diverse experience in different types of problems that you'll see we're able to jump over buildings that other brokerages can't, because we have the right training. But it really makes a huge difference.
Here's another issue when we're sitting down with a person and they're like, oh yeah, we got a new air conditioner last year. Well, was that paid off? Do you have a UCC loan? And a lien, against the property, meaning, that they might have financed it through the air conditioner company and they put a UCC, and that lien has to be paid off.
That's right.
Closing. And, if you don't know that and you're giving them a net sheet and the next thing you know, well, they're close, they're getting about 10 grand. And the next thing you know, you got a UCC lien for 11 grand or 9 grand. They may be bringing money to closing because those things have to be paid off.
Sure, we see that a lot with pool equipment. We see that a lot with water softeners. We see that a lot with appliances. So it's not just one thing. It's several different types of appliances. So at the listing appointment, you want to make sure, like we talked about yesterday, are these items leased? or do you own them outright? Because if they're leased, this needs to be dealt with prior to putting it on the listing. I'm putting it to closing, from listing to closing.
Yep.
Well, and like we were talking about yesterday, also setting expectations. Studies do show within the first 10 seconds, that first impression is going to be cemented in that buyer's mind when they walk in. Most of the time, they just know when they walk in. It's really important when you're selling a house to make sure you don't have a terrible exterior. Make sure the lawn and all of that's been done. If you have a chance to tell the seller, and if the seller is in a different county, or let's say the seller's out of state, make sure they have a service that's available to get all this done. Make sure it's nice and clean. You want to make sure that the exterior is not what we want to call cringe worthy, because if it is, they're not even going to get inside the front door.
I'll tell you what, I call it a sidewalk conference. We start outside and walk the house outside and around, and then we go in. We have a pad of paper and we're marking down things that need to be touched up before pictures are taken, you know, and it's so important, Kate, now with Kathleen, with pictures, because they go around the world.
Oh, they do.
You post them, they're around the world. And even if you change them on the MLS, it may take 2 weeks to filter down to all the websites that we post to, or it may never get updated on certain websites. So you really need to make sure that that you do that walk around and are ready, as you say, curb appeal for those pictures.
That's right. It's very important. And let's look at, Joe, if you want, go through this slide,
Okay.
and so that everybody can see just how important these items are.
Sure. So the properly priced homes and stage homes sell fast in this market. Why? Because 98% of the people are looking at the house online. So if it's decluttered, if you've got a good curb appeal, face it. When you go and date somebody, what are you looking? You're looking at the curb appeal first, right?
Yeah, that smile.
Before you even talk to that person, you're checking out the curb appeal of that house. So it's the same thing. It's no different. Even today, I walk by a house going, wow, that's really pretty on the outside. They really take good care of that house. You can tell how much they have pride of home ownership. And that's what you're trying to portray, that these sellers love their home and they really took care of it. So yes, the front door.
That's right, all the way from the front door. Yes. And highlighting the home's best features, right? Setting up.
If that front door is dirty and cobwebs all over it.
Fingerprints. I hate fingerprints all over the front door. Dirt.
Next thing they go is what else is not right in the house. So, you know, you don't want the buyers to start subtracting, right? When they walk in, you want them to add the positives that they see. So the priced home and staged well in today's market. Discuss a staging company with the sellers.
Correct.
Or you help them, right? And give advice on decluttering and depersonalizing. I tell all my sellers, take anything personal off the walls and pack them now. They need to be packed and put away.
You don't want your personal pictures all over the internet. You know, and depending on the type of career you're in, you don't want the world to know you were the best FBI agent the South has ever seen.
Oh, I've had buyers walk in and go, oh, he's a doctor. He can afford to sell this at this price. Okay, so you want the buyer to bond to the house, not to your sellers, right? So you want them talking about the house, not about who owns the house. And boy, after selling 500 homes, I can tell you how many empty homes I've been in, right? But I've been with enough buyers and they immediately look at that stuff. They do. It's called depersonalizing the house. We want to make sure our personal items are put up in a way. Just like when I sold my own personal investments, believe me, there wasn't a bunch of law degrees all over that house. All of that is put away, nice and personal. You want all those things put away. That way you've depersonalized it. You want the buyer to come in and make it feel like, think of a hotel room, how it's nice and open and pristine and clean. And it's spacious. You want that buyer to be able to fill the space and think to themselves, I can put my sofa here, I can put my table there. It's about them. So by depersonalizing, we're doing just that. And like we touched on yesterday too, actually we talked about it thoroughly. Have a pre-loved home inspection. The seller will get fixed what they want to get fixed, and then have a preliminary title search.
because those items, those two items are so critical for two reasons. One, you want to make sure that whatever needs to be done that's very serious, and with the home inspection, get that fixed up front. You get the choice as the seller to control the repairs that are getting done and who's doing them. Number two, on having the preliminary title search, if there's any crazy issues, like the one that came up with unrecorded satisfaction of mortgage, get that done ahead of time. It's just a time saver. It's a money saver. You'll reap dividends by being proactive.
Yep.
Condition. Now we get to move on to some fun stuff. Condition. Now this picture is taken from a real listing that was on the MLS. No, it was not one of ours. You see that big pink thing right there? That's a real pig that was in that picture in that house.
I have seen, and sometimes we have, there's tenants in it, and you've got to establish a relationship with tenants. Yeah, they don't care if that house is sold or not.
No.
The permits, what's the age of, we skipped over age of roof, and that's a big issue now, Kat. And I want to make sure we hit it because, you limit the amount of insurance companies that will insure a property if the roof is over 10 years old now.
Right.
So you have to be really, really careful. That's why it's really good in the beginning to find out how old the roof is. And when the seller goes, I don't know, go look.
What's the permits?
Permit. All right. See if you can find a permit for the roof. It's really, really important.
And just for most of you that may not be familiar, when you go onto IMAP, you can put in the property address under IMAP, the IMAP tax record. At the bottom, you'll see improvements, other, that sort of thing. A lot of times your permit information will be in there. And if it's not, there's a link to the clerk of court that will pull that up for you, as well as the property appraiser, because a lot of times the property appraiser will have notations like that. And if you go into your tax record, I know a lot of the databases here in Manatee and Sarasota, if we click on the tax record and we click on the building sketch, building up information, in the right-hand bottom corner, all the permit information comes up. That is such a huge time saver. So if anyone wants to know how to find out permit information, please let me know. I'm the guru of research. That's my expertise. I can find anything. So reach out to me. I have no problem with that. It doesn't matter to me whose office you're with. We all help each other, as Joe does with all the other offices. We all interact with one another. So.
Hey, Kat, how important is it to know how old the air conditioner is? Because we're going to be marketing the house, right?
Yes, it is. It's critically important, especially if it's 30 years or older. We're going to have to get a 4-point inspection.
Right. So,
very important.
But I'm looking at it in the sense of also marketing, because I want to make sure if my sellers were really good, like Joe was yesterday, replacing the air conditioner and the roof and
great seller.
When you talk about roofs and air conditioning, they're the two big ticket items in a house.
And the water heater.
That when you're doing a CMA from one house to another, you've got to factor that in, because a new roof that is going to save them about $800 to $1,000 on their insurance on the wind mitt.
Correct.
So that's really a huge benefit to the buyer buying a house with a new roof.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And if they're not able to put a new roof on there before they list, have that discussion. The potential of having to replace the roof is X amount of dollars. We've gotten some quotes, so they're prepared to make that necessary adjustment, especially if they're coming in at a really good contract price. They want top dollar, you got to put top effort into it.
Right.
And another thing too that we talk about is making sure sellers offer a home warranty on those appliances. That is peace of mind. Pay it up front. It's so much easier to sell a home that has a transferable warranty on it, so that if there's a problem with the dishwasher, problem with the air conditioner, problem with the pool pump, problem, depending on what you have in the way of coverage, you have that ready to roll. That is peace of mind, and that is money in the bank, and that's really good marketing skills right there.
You know what? In this market, Kat, we're as buyer agents, we're not getting sellers to pay for a home warranty. I ask every buyer to do that. It stops you getting phone calls because something broke. All right. They can call the home warranty. So you have to kind of try to help your client say, hey, listen, if this house is 10 years old, You know, you go and buy a home warranty on a new TV and it's not even out of the box when you go to Best Buy. So this house has been out of the box for 10 years. It might be a good idea to get this home warranty, and you kind of know if you have a repair, it's going to cost you 75 bucks to get
Well,
it.
it's always a good idea. I always let my sellers know, as a seller of investment properties myself, I always offer it on my properties so that there's not a headache. You're nipping it in the bud early on. And not only that, the service calls are so inexpensive compared to what today's service calls are. I emphasize that. I have never had a seller object to offering a home warranty. Now, if the seller's in a position where they don't have that money just yet, I'll ask them, look, if you want, I'll take care of it for you, and then you can just pay me at the closing table back out of your seller's proceeds. I've done it that way too. I want a home warranty on there because it's peace of mind, and I want to make sure they get the pre-loved inspection, because we want top dollar for our sellers. So if we're not emphasizing that to them, they're not understanding. Then why didn't you tell me about this? My neighbor got a home warranty. How come you didn't tell me about this? My neighbor got a pre-loved home inspection. Why didn't you do that? Because people talk. The other thing we did touch on a little bit about plumbing as part of the 4-point, we want to make sure we don't have any cast iron issues, polybutylene, galvanized piping. And that's where, again, a good pre-loved home inspection will come in. Polybutylene, as you well know, those are gray pipes that was very popular in the, I want to say 90s, even back to the 70s, because it offered an alternative for piping. And what we found out is that not only does it get brittle on the ends and break off, it explodes from the inside out. We just don't know when that's going to happen because of the type of material that it is. It could happen in a year, it could happen in 2 years, it could happen tomorrow. So with that being said, we want to make sure we have a good pre-loved home inspection that checks the spigots, that checks all the water outlets to all the appliances that are using water, to your water heater and so forth. And sometimes they're painted over. So what you'll want to do is take something, a coin or something, and scrape off the paint, and you'll be able to see the gray pipe underneath it. Cast iron.
Someone's asking us to go back one slide, Kat, and I'm not sure which slide to go back on. I'm not sure. Mike, can you tell us which slide?
I don't think I can.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute.
Just hit the back arrow.
Got it. Sure.
All right, Mike, you got to help us out.
The setting expectations, I know we talked about that. Maybe it was setting the expectation. Maybe it was this slide that he missed.
I'm not sure. He's not answering us right now. So.
All right, well, we can always go back.
Okay. The other thing, before we go on galvanized pipe too, another issue is aluminum wiring.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm not sure.
We're going to start getting into that in the next slide.
All right. Sorry.
Electrical panel boxes, Challenger, Zenco, Zenith. We want to make sure as part of that pre-loved home inspection, we know what kind of electric panel we're using. Because these boxes, back in the day, they were like, the next best thing to peanut butter and jelly until they had something better come along. There's been problems with arcing and problems with fires. This is why that these boxes are no longer insured.
And because they don't know where they are, the way the insurance companies are handling them, and when they do a 4-point and they come up, they're wanting them replaced. It's about $1,200 or more, but I've had as much as $4,000. We talked yesterday because they had to also upgrade service to the house because the service was not enough service to the house. So it's expensive, and it's better to know that before you list than after you list.
Yes, because I can tell you from personal experience owning properties, most of the time I'm able to get those panels put back in for about $800 because I've done repeat business with electricians. So they'll come out and they'll do it, and they'll save me, had I not done that, save me an easy, probably another $900 with today's prices, plus the additional service fees and so forth. So by getting that done before you list, it makes a big difference, or at least give a credit if you're going to be dealing with it. But still, in order to get insurance, some of the companies may give you a 30-day window after closing if you're paying cash. Some may not. I wouldn't risk it. Personally, just get it done. If you can get it done, get it done. Age of flooring, baths, kitchens, pools, and more. We want to make sure everything is well cared for and clean, presentable. We want to check all these items. We don't want to walk out and see that the pool has a gigantic hole in the bottom of it and water is seeping out. Now you got a problem. You got to get a proper licensed contractor to go out there and make the necessary repairs.
Right.
Surveys, permits, and inspections. We talked about inspections. Surveys, if your seller has one, and most of the time they do in their closing package, but if they paid cash and didn't get one, then they won't. It's great to have one. I do not recommend sellers doing affidavits as to the property being in the condition in the last 2 years without changes, because they're not surveyors. I absolutely don't agree with that. I think if the title company is asking for a new survey, let the buyer get their new survey. Researching permits for open, closed, or expired permits. Velocity Hall is the one that's used in Hillsborough County, and Excella. Excella is also in Manatee as well as Bradenton. And we also have the IMAP feature where we can go in and take a look and see about the permits from there. That gives you a direct link to click in, so you'll be able to see them. We talked about a pre-love home inspection, how important that is. The elevation certificate, that is usually done with the survey. Sometimes people will have them, sometimes they don't. Now we're dealing with changes with flood insurance, and the elevation certificate is helpful, but the new rules that will go into effect, unless something happens between now and October 1, they're looking at how close you are to the water and the condition of the property, and the elevation of the property. The certificate is helpful, but they are really looking at the distance to the property for flood insurance rates, which we went over yesterday. This is overcoming sellers' objections, Joe.
They are going up, right?
They are.
Yeah, big time.
Overcoming the seller's objections. Joe, you want to go over this?
Sure. Pricing the home property or have a scheduled price reduction. I mean, it's really important in the beginning to have that conversation and pricing it right, knowing all the improvements that your seller has made, and then compared to the other comps that are done. And, you know, obviously having that conversation on how quickly things are moving off the market, and making sure that their plans where they're going are coinciding for what you're doing to sell their home. You don't want to make them homeless. My house isn't big enough to hold 5 people or whatever, you know. So if they're going someplace else, say they're moving to Ohio, and you find that out, obviously see if you can get their permission for an outgoing referral, so you can make some money on where they're going. So you can, I call double dip, but you're not doing any work on the other end. So it's really nice to be able to do that. You're hopefully finding that out early enough to be able to do that.
And it's helping the seller too. You're helping them have peace of mind. There's somebody working for them to find them their next home.
Someone experienced and who's been vetted for that.
Yes.
Okay, and pricing working. Oh, I'm sorry. Did we go over that?
I bumped it by accident. There we go.
Right, okay. Pricing, we work harder, smarter, faster, and ensure top dollar for your seller's commission. If an objection is just an objection, offer reload service help. You know, objections really can't, you know, it really is a point that you find out why they're objecting, and it's really probably, objections are usually questions. Okay.
Correct.
They're not really objections. They're points that need to be clarified, and right. and that's more or less what you have to do.
And it's important because this is their biggest asset most of the time. Wouldn't you have a lot of questions if you were not doing this day to day and without your experience? Wouldn't you want to be able to have the ability to ask questions and not feel like you're going to get shot down, but you're going to get answers instead? It's very important.
Yeah. And decluttering, cleaning, and don't be afraid. Have a cleaning service that you can recommend. Yes. Because, you know, I always say to my seller, you know what, you're going to be decluttering everything. Let's have a good deep clean after you're done decluttering to make it, you know, show ready. All right. Exactly. Because really that's what it is. It's becoming show ready. And, you know, I just did one not too long ago where I sold the house to them 5 years ago and went back. They were getting ready to sell and wanted me to sell it. and you have to be honest with them enough. We went upstairs and the carpet was really stained. We're talking about $500,000 house. Okay. So the carpet's really stained and stuff like that. And they're like, what do you think we should do? And I said, do you want top dollar? And they said, yes. I said, replace this.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. And we ended up with 15 offers. Okay. So because people didn't come in and go, oh, I'm going to have to replace that carpet. All right. So, right. And I was up there the day before pictures going, this front door isn't painted yet. And they're like, we got the paint. We're just not there yet. So I was up there with my little whip, making sure it was ready for Shannon to take pictures the next day. So, you know, the handling those decluttering is really, really important. Make sure that you're giving lots of room. People can see the countertops. You know, oh yeah, there is room for my coffee pot. Look how big this countertop is, and it's not cluttered with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and you help the seller with that. A lot of times I've just jumped in. I can't tell you how many countless showers I've gone in and put everything in a nice bucket. Underneath the sink it goes. I said, here's your bucket under the sink, and then when we're all done, you can put some of those items back in there. You want to make it look like what? A hotel. They have that in their head, hotel, and they're able to go through and just really get everything nicely done. And your point is well taken on carpeting. A lot of times sellers will say, well, they're going to want to pick out what they want. If a seller is resisting changing the carpet, you have to just tell them over and over again. It's, you know, first impressions are everything. If they come in and they see that wonderful wax stain from your anniversary party, and you had 15 candles in here, they're not going to appreciate the fun and the memories of that. They're just not. I've had that situation come up. That's why I reference it.
You know, it's an inexpensive remediation. Okay, it's not that much money. It's a pain in the butt because you got to move stuff, but it's not that expensive overall to the positive impression it's going to give to sell the house. Absolutely. Now you and I can have the discussion about the marketplace, and it might sell anyway, but you know what, I'd rather have 12 offers than 2 offers.
Me too. Me too. So, because there might be 2 really awful offers.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Right, exactly. So, yeah. All right.
Overcoming sellers' objections, which are really questions and really concerns. Do I have to do the repairs prior to listing to make the house shine? I always say the same thing. You want top dollar? It's top effort. Yes, even in this fast market, yes. Or a credit for items like torn carpet if they absolutely just can't do it for whatever reason.
Right.
You can advertise it in the listing. There's going to be a credit for that particular item. Permits, like we talked about, we'll do the research and discuss with the seller what they need to do, how they need to chase it down and get it done. I don't want a lockbox. Well, let me go back up one. I don't want signage. We need signage to market the property. We're not just putting a stick in the yard with a sign hanging from it. Believe it or not, there are people that walk by and see the sign, and that's what gets them in the door.
Well, you know who your best salesmen are? Your neighbors.
They are.
Okay. Oh, I have a friend who's been looking to get in this development for a long time. Yes. You know, your neighbor isn't on the MLS looking for a house, but she'll see the sign and she'll call Betty and go, hey, Betty, the house down the street just went for sale. Quick, call your agent. Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. Very, very true. And lockbox, you know, we get objections from lockboxes from time to time. Well, there's a way to handle that to give sellers peace of mind. The lockbox can be kept inside the house and have it electronically coded. And when we have showings, they can just put it outside when they leave and bring it in at the end of the day. If you've got a seller that's very concerned like that, work with them like that. I represent a lot of law enforcement and a lot of judges, and that's what they prefer. I have not yet had a problem with it. It's just talking about it up front and making sure that the communication is going 2 ways, and don't ever make the seller feel like you're ramming something down their throat. Talk with them, not at them. That's so important.
You can always put the lockbox on the garage door, on the back door. I mean, there's different places like you can hide it. Yep.
Sure, absolutely. And you can code it. We're not using those little Mickey Mouse boxes with the little codes and numbers and all that. We're not doing that.
And it really is a good idea to explain to our sellers how that works. And I think we get into that a little later.
Yeah, we do. And I always demonstrate to my sellers how it works. And that way they have peace of mind. They understand that it's got to be somebody that has a phone with a license to get into that. Where with a combo code or punch codes, anybody can get into those. They're not supposed to, but they can. And that's why
and I always worry about those combo codes where you have the agent going, oh, I can't meet you, Mr. Buyer. Here's the code.
And that is so
And
many
you're not allowed
violations
to
of
do
ethics.
that, but it doesn't mean that they won't do that. So
True, true.
unless you're standing there catching them, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to be the one that that the seller is going to be calling. Why did you insist on putting this on here? Somebody's in my house and I don't know who they are.
Yeah,
What a terrible feeling that would be.
absolutely.
And the other item, the other concern that comes up, I want you here for every showing. No, actually you don't, but you nicely explain to the seller why. The buyers need to feel like it's their time to see the home and their time to enjoy it. If you're there, they're going to feel like you're a hawk ready to attack. And anything that you hear, and it's only human nature. If the buyer makes a comment while you're in the other room, oh my God, that wallpaper. Oh my God, who was thinking about those appliances? Oh my God, this place is a dump. Don't think for 1 second that seller's not going to take it personal. We're human beings. We are.
Hey, Kat, anymore now, when you bring this up, I usually have, when I first meet my clients for the first time before we ever go in the house, I have a sidewalk conference at the cars. Be careful what you say. I don't know if they have cameras in the house and can hear you. So we don't discuss offers in the house. You can discuss anything about the house, like I like the layout, I like this, but don't make any comments about, hey, let's go back to the office and write an offer, try to, and they understand, people get it. And
they do. And Mike made a good, very, very good point. The combination boxes, the agents forget to change the codes on them and they don't work right half the time. Well, he is absolutely right. Thankfully, we don't use them, but spot on, Michael. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yep.
And we talk about lock boxes. We customize the hours for the weekend, Saturdays and Sundays. We can put a special code, a CVS code in the box, in addition to the PIN that you put in the box, to protect it from just anybody showing up and showing the house because they think they have the right to show the house. Because unfortunately, there are agents out there, not our group, not our office, that will just walk up to a house if they see a sign, they see the lockbox, and they'll just go in there and open it up, irregardless of the rules of ethics and scheduling. Just because the house is vacant doesn't mean you have the right to just run in there whenever you feel like it. There could be something going on. There could be work going on, any number of things. Or maybe the seller's family there spending the weekend and you don't know about it.
There's a way to go into showing time, and there's a report you can print out at who went in and what time they went in and what time they leave.
Right.
And I printed one of those and it's in my presentation binder. So I explained to them, this is a lockbox, and see how it records when they go in and out. And I said, we know exactly what time they opened the box and what time they closed the box and who was in here. And I put that in my presentation, but from a past listing, but it gives them a good peace of mind that sometimes you have to demonstrate things in more than one ways other than just telling them. Sometimes you need a little show and tell.
Sure. No, and that's an excellent point. And just like the phones that we use our Zap program and the phone calls coming to us on our listings, that's something I also like to show the seller, just like you do with who's coming and going. Those are both excellent points because then they can see the value of us, of what service we provide. I also show the sellers, and that's in another slide, I believe, our reverse prospecting, where I'm able to go in and talk by email, phone, texting to individuals that have clients that are interested in the properties, individual realtors, not the clients, but the actual realtors themselves. So that's another additional resource of advertising and being able to stay connected with the seller. And I show them all the time and they love that, love that. And on that note, we're talking about communication and help. And that's what we're doing throughout the whole process. You need to make those weekly phone calls, even if you don't. Craig says this very well, even if you don't have anything to report, just reach out. Hi, how are you? This is what we've been doing. This is the feedback we're getting on your home, the good, the bad, and otherwise, because the reason why that's so important is when it comes time for price reduction, if you don't have an automatic price reduction in the listing, you're going to get one because you've stayed in contact with that seller and let them know, hey, I'm doing everything I can, but for whatever reason, it's just not moving at this price. Let's tweak it a bit.
I do my own little report, and it basically, it goes, I do it bi-weekly, but, or bi-monthly, I guess, but basically it says how long your listing's been on the market. Here's all the feedback that we've gotten, who came in, what day, what time, the feedback. and I capture that on an Excel spreadsheet and populate that into a Word document. Here's any houses that have gone on the market in your development since we went on. Here's houses that have pended.
Yes.
And I do that because I learned a long time ago. I had a client, she goes, the house down the street, you know, it got sold, and why isn't our house selling? And I said, well, what's the address? And they gave it to me. I said, you know, your house is at 550. I can sell your house if you want to be at 250 because that's how much the other house sold for. All right. So they don't always understand that the price point of the other house. Those people really aren't looking at your house because they're not at a 550 price point. They're at a 250 price point. But sometimes them seeing that, it relaxes them a little bit, understanding, okay, those houses that sold aren't anything like mine. Now, if something sells like mine and they didn't even come see mine, then why did that happen? And that's a point of conversation for them. So
we do have Move Easy to help with the cleaning and the movers and the trades. And Mike makes a good comment. He in the chat, he's absolutely spot on. Thank you, Mike. Move Easy is the way we do it. Absolutely. Especially with the utility companies. It's such a great program to have that. Do we all remember to know to call Tico or to call the water? No, we don't, but Move Easy does.
Yes, and it really is, when you're starting with utilities, it's an easy thing for them to do, and it starts to get them confidence in that service. And believe me, when you're moving, you're busy worrying about packing and stuff like that.
Yes.
Right? So that's just one little less thing they have to do. Yep.
Showcasing your home through professional photography. Shannon Core gets my praise every day of the week, rain or shine. His photography is impeccable. His drone work is impeccable. I have never had a listing that he did photography on and it didn't sell. And his photos look very much like what the house looks like when you walk in. He doesn't distort them or make them look ridiculous or make teeny tiny rooms look into big mansions. He doesn't do any of that. But he does a beautiful job on presentation, beautiful job on the flow of the photography, and the drone is just incredible. And he captures all the amenities in the area. He's done a lot of Sun City ones. He's done a lot of Sarasota. He's done a lot of South Tampa. He understands the markets. He drives everywhere. I've never seen anybody drive so much, but he does.
He really needs a helicopter. He doesn't need a car.
He does. I think we should get him a C21 jet.
Oh my God, he's all over some days.
He is. Yeah. Poor guy. He must be exhausted at the end of the day. And his day doesn't stop when he gets home. He's working on all this stuff. The turnaround time is amazing. But please do a favor. Don't ask him to do photos for tomorrow for a listing that's going live tomorrow. The guy has to have time to process those photos, just like we have to have time to line them up and get them done. So when you're at that listing appointment, reach out to Shannon and find out what his availability is so that you'll be able to coordinate those photos better and your seller won't be disappointed, because there's nothing worse than telling the seller, oh, we can get the photos out in the next 2 days. And guess what? No, you can't.
It's setting that expectation. When do you think you're going to be ready for photos? Because I need to give 3 or 4 days notice to the photographer to get him scheduled in. So again, setting that expectation in the beginning.
I like to say a week just because I love Shannon. He does such good work.
You're way down in the hinterland. So, but the 360 virtual tours, oh my God, you have to put them in. All right. We have so many people that are buying from away. I mean, I can tell you probably half of my listings this year were sold to people who didn't see them personally.
In other countries.
Mm-hmm. They were away, and their agent came in, and you know, the 360 virtual tour helps them be able to, you know, I say the only thing you can't do on a 360 tour is open the drawers and turn on the water, you know, so you can do about everything else with the tour. So that really gives people a perspective of how the flow is in the house.
Well, while we're talking about photography too, we have our international websites, our global websites. We're on over 800 websites. So many of my clients that are purchasing from us here in Sarasota are purchasing from China, Russia, Germany. We're getting some from France now, and Spain and Italy. So with that being said, those sites also translate into those languages. That's a wonderful marketing tool. That's not something that an individual smaller brokerage could possibly do. But because we are a larger brokerage, we have those tools available, and that helps get your property sold so much quicker. Because again, it's not just putting a sign out in the yard and hanging a piece of metal from it, a piece of wood, a stick. Mike was asking about Shannon. The photographer is Shannon Core. And if you go into your next resource platform, his information's in there. And at the end of the presentation, we will be able to give you a copy of this slide presentation, so you'll have that information too.
I was looking up his number.
That would be great. Actually, I think I have it.
Shannon Core Photography. His phone number is 510-414-6658.
Thank you, Angelique. She just posted it.
Thank you, Angelique. You're so good.
Hey, she keeps us in line. The platform she's been working on is tremendous. There isn't anything that you can't find an answer to that isn't in that platform, because so many of us have collaborated together to put them together.
Reverse process.
And he put all the different counties that are in there too.
We have a 15-minute warning here. So we don't go over. We have a 15-minute warning here.
This time I'm watching. Yeah, it's 1:44. Yeah. Reverse prospecting, for those of you that are not familiar with it, when you click on your listing in the matrix and then you click the box at the top, you will go to the very bottom, and there you will see reverse prospecting, and you'll click it on and you'll be able to do that. Now, unfortunately, I don't have 3 screens. Otherwise, I would be able to show you how that happens. But if anybody's interested in having an additional class on that, we can certainly do that. It's so easy because you're going to hover over My Matrix tab. You're going to click on My Listings, My Active Listings. You check the listing that you're interested in doing the reverse prospecting. You click on the button, and there's the list just comes up with names, dates. I always like to look at the dates. I always format it with the dates, the most recent date.
Yeah, it's very easy. And now you don't get to the actual person that's looking. You only get to the agent. But you can email that agent and go, hey, you have a client number 12345 is looking in this. It's an excellent house. We'd love to have you come by, blah, 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 whatever you want to do. So, and
you can do a beautiful email. You can literally cut and paste it. Let's say you're having a open house, like a wine or a little serving. Now it's going to be the fake wine, of course, that sort of thing. But you're doing like a little luncheon or something, and you want to invite them. Or Brokers Open. We used to do a lot of Brokers Open. I think we'll start seeing more of those come back on homes that are more unique or unusual, perhaps, or just one extra service that you can do for your seller. My camera's doing something funny here. Sorry, it's moving.
I thought you were dancing.
So sorry. Yeah, it's
getting ready for the disco tonight. Crazy. Okay. Social media, very, very important. Very important. I'm sure many of you have got onto Mike's class. We're not going to repeat any of that, but it's really important to get into social media for sure. And it's, again, always keep track of what you're doing for the client. If you're an attorney, you're keeping a billable hours book. Right. But if you're a real estate agent, you should be keeping a log of what you're doing for promotion, for advertisement. And again, sending him a copy. Hey, I'm just copying you. This is what got posted onto Facebook today. They may see it, they may not see it, but as far as on Facebook, but at least they see a copy that what you're doing for them.
And it's important because you're able to share information about the listing or information about your most recent sale. And believe it or not, a lot of times your sphere of influence, they're going to be seeing that, your friends that are on Facebook, and they're going to say, oh, that's a great house. Hey, we were thinking about maybe upgrading. Can you put us on a search so we can start?
I use Property Blast. Have you ever used that, Kat?
I like it. Yes, I do.
I use Property Blast. I love doing that.
Yeah.
And I always send a copy to my client that, here's the proof of it going, that it's going to go out. But, I get Property Blast across my email all the time, and I look at it, and it's really important to put the right heading on it. But, like if you're looking for a certain school district or whatever, man, that comes up and I'm definitely looking for something for a client in that school district or whatever. Yes. So
yes,
it's really for the $20 that it costs to promote the house. It's nothing. It's nothing.
Constant contact is very good. And you always want to make sure that your seller gets a copy of that unique property website for that listing, because then they're able to see all the beautiful photos or be able to see the tours, and it's personalized just for their home. So that's something the sellers really love to have. And then when you're marketing that listing, you can also go in the unique property sites, and you can actually print a flyer of that has a scan code on it, your information, and that unique property website address is on there as well. And I will tell you, that really makes a difference in marketing your listings. Our agents over here absolutely love that, and it's a beautiful way to present it. Now,
so I just put that in there. It's propertyblast.com is the website.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, it is. It's excellent. It's excellent. Now, in addition to marketing the house with the time that we have left, we also do agent presentment marketing videos of ourselves, of the property. And it's a lot of fun. If you keep in mind, have fun while you're doing this. Don't go in with a preset idea that you've got to be, like Vanna White and turn the wrist like that. No. Be yourself. The more natural, the more fun. Even if you trip, I will tell you, I had one in Apollo Beach. I literally tripped on a stair and I started laughing like a hyena. I must have gotten 3,000 hits on that because they thought it was so hysterical that I just kept going with it. The heels were too high. I learned my lesson. You don't wear those kind of heels when you're going to multi-level properties, but you're just being yourself. And
I try not to wear my
property after that.
I try not to wear my heels when I'm doing that too.
No, so. I don't blame you. It's too much. But my point of saying that, it's okay if you're silly, if you're a little off the wall, whatever. It's not about being pencil perfect. It's really about being authentic. Because they're going to really enjoy working with you when they see, hey, you can fall down and get up and keep laughing. They don't want a stiff. They don't want somebody who acts like they know more than anybody else on the planet. Those days are done. It's so passé. Nobody wants that. So instead, you just want to keep it real. You're not going to be able to cover every inch of the house, but you're going to cover key rooms, the entryway, the living room, and you walk through the different rooms. You're not going to open up the bathroom and say, here's the toilet. No, nobody does that. And you're not going to walk in the shower and turn it on to show them that it works. But what you are going to do is have fun with it and point out all the beautiful features of the home, how spacious it feels, how you feel like you've got so much arm room in this house. And let's go to the back. Wow, what a beautiful view. Look at this lake view. Look at this pool view. And this great deck over here. Let's walk over here. You just impromptu a lot of this stuff. Usually the first or second shoot is all you need, because if you start getting too serious with it, it's kind of like when you want to get a profile picture and you take the first couple and they're really okay, but then you start taking the fourth and the fifth, they get worse. Don't do it. Just don't do it.
Most people like the natural videos anyway. They don't want it canned. Or
just don't have food in your teeth, clean your ears and, brush your hair and, have on clothes. This is not Zoom. Don't show up in your PJs.
One video I did, they had a pool, and the last segment was me in the pool with a drink, sitting there going, isn't this a wonderful way to end the day? And I got so many hits on that. It wasn't even funny.
Let's keep it real. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Have good lighting before you do the video. Go through the house, turn on the lights, make sure that you've got good, nice, natural light coming in. And it's a good point on certain times of the day. Usually dusk or dawn are the best time to do the videos because the lighting is so pretty. It's so soft. It's really nice, and it shows a beautiful backdrop of the area. Because after all, you're selling what? The house, not yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're kind of selling yourself too, but the house first.
House first.
Yeah. And a good basic shot. Exterior, start with the exterior, work your way around. Brief agent introduction with your name, brokerage, address of the property, and the price. If you start getting too much information in there, you're going to start getting complicated. You might trip over yourself. So you want to just do it, have fun with it, Make sure your microphone is you've tested it beforehand. Make sure that the volume's good. You don't want it too loud. Just like when we're doing classes, man, we don't want people screaming at us. You know, we're not Tony Robbins here. We're
You know, they make
selling
some
homes.
really inexpensive mics that you can put on your collar with the phone.
Yeah.
Even if it's attached, it's just a much better sound to it.
Yeah, and the newer iPhones, they have fantastic microphones. You don't have to worry about it. You can just hold it up and go around and it picks up your voice beautifully. Your iPad, same thing. Makes it really easy. Living areas, like we were talking about, you want to include the living areas, dining room, kitchen. You know, you're going to point out the master bed, bath, guest room. No, you're not getting into the bathrooms. You're not getting in the showers. If there's a bonus room, if there's an office or den, you point that out and you go by that area. The exterior living area, your pool, your entertainment areas, you always want to point that out because that's going to be the space where most of the life's going to be, and the kitchen always, because the kitchen's the heart of the home. That's where all memories are made. So is it by the pool or by the lake or by whatever body of water that might be there. And you can do a rundown of the market. You know, you can talk about it. You can give a little segue there. But just being by your nature, be outgoing, you know what the property's about, you know what's in it, talk about it, just be yourself. And you can go to your site, your next level resource. This is the link. And again, you're going to get a copy of this. So this is the link that'll give you more information on how to do that. And you can even practice it. It's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Open houses. Yes, we still do those. Those are still a thing. You want to make sure a couple of days prior, send over to listings, let them know the email, property address. Weekends are usually the best time, but it depends on the neighborhood. Some areas like Sun City, they do a lot of open houses during the week and the weekend. So it's just, you know, the area is very specific. Reach out to the neighbors, invite them. Our back office will load in the open house information that'll feed out literally to hundreds of websites, including our Century 21 sites, our Zillow and Realtor.com. Promote your open house on your social media before, during, and after your event, and speak up on your roundtable meetings when you have with your office. Some of us have our meetings on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, whatever day it is. Let your fellow agents know, hey, I've got a wonderful property coming on the market, especially if you're going to need help for open houses. What, you know, if you're tied up and you can't do it, let your agents know, because there's plenty of them that want to jump in and help you. Joe, you, I was going to say, wait, why did this go backwards? This is weird. How to do. Okay, Joe, you want to cover this one? We got a little bit of time left.
Okay, yeah, so for sure. Certainly when you're taking notes from your seller, you want to create a feature sheet and have it at the house and make sure that you have it. But you're not just having it for the customer, right? You're having it for the appraiser. You want to make sure the appraiser, when you meet them after you sell, gets a copy of that feature sheet and any improvements that were made to the property, and they'll very much appreciate it. Okay.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will.
So spread the word. Use the method of communication. Let your sphere know. You know, obviously, open house. You're going to use Facebook. You can use Property Blast that we talked about a little earlier about any open houses. On the day of the open house, place your sign nearby intersections. We used to have a rule. You should put up 6 signs, all right? At different, right. You haven't put up 6 signs, you haven't put up enough, all right, to point to the right house. And you can get those signs at buildasign.com. You should be getting custom ones with Century 21. You obviously are branded. You want to make sure, because your ad, if your ad is on Facebook, it says Joe Diener at Century 21. So you want them to look for that Century 21 sign, open house sign. So you would definitely want to do that.
Yep. Yep.
Sign sheets are important. All right. You want to know, A, who's been there.
Right.
And if you can get their information. I have gotten buyers from sign-in sheets. You know, they were working with an agent, but they're not, you know, they're not really happy. And guess what? I've gotten listings from open houses. The neighbors are going to put their house on the market in a couple months, and they want to you're doing at your open house.
And a lot of times sellers are shopping you when they go to open houses. They're trying to see how would you hold an open house, and you'll be surprised how many people will come back to you and list with you. They attended your open house really because they wanted to see what kind of job that you're doing. This has happened to many of our agents, and they've gotten a lot of listings over other competing brokerages because we held them in such a professional way. Also, reach out to your local businesses when you're having open houses, the people you get your hair done with, the places where you do your fine dining or takeout, your auto mechanic, and so forth. You'd be surprised how many of them are in the market to find a house, or to buy a house, I should say. And by giving them flyers and information, that's that much more word of mouth you've gotten out. PTAs, your school boards, all of it.
You also want to reach out to the neighbors, 5 on the right, 5 on the left, and 10 across the street, right? You want to go. And I kind of do a little bit of, I go over and I say, hey, I'm Joe Diener. I'm with C21. I have the listing across the street, and that's my car parked in the driveway. So in case you see me there, I'm not robbing the house.
That's right. That's right. Well, we've run out of time, but we sure have had a wonderful class. I'm so happy everybody could attend. If you have any questions, feel free to email us, text us, follow us on Facebook. We love you. We enjoyed this.
And stay on, because Otis and I are going to be on with buyers.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. With that being said, happy Wednesday. See you soon.
Take care, Kat.
You too.